Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blues Fanatics Show. I'm your host, Dave Yanni Riley,
I'm Dan Ligori.
and we got on the show today Andy T. How's it going, Mr. Andy?
It's going pretty good. Not too bad. Thank you very much.
How's the pandemic treating you, man? Is you guys hanging in there?
Oh, you had to ask. Well, I
I
haven't played a gig
have
in
to ask,
1
brother. I
year.
have to ask.
I haven't played a gig in 1 whole year. So as far as that goes, not so good. But we have a roof over our heads and doing all right. So I guess I can't complain.
Yeah, you say you haven't played in over a year, so the withdrawals are pretty bad right about now, huh?
Oh yeah, I know. I grab my guitar out once, a few minutes a day, but that's not the same thing. It's getting in front of an audience and traveling around, you know, all different states and seeing our friends. That's the main thing is you miss the interaction with people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I've been thinking about. Like, man, I like really miss the road and the people that you meet, and seeing them at the regular festivals we do and stuff like that is like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's truly sad.
they become like extended family. You got people all over the U.S. and Europe that you know, and you just can't see them right now. It's tough. It's really tough.
Well,
How's the band doing, Andy? How's your band members doing?
Everybody's okay. Jim Klingler, my drummer, just got over COVID. He had it, and he's doing better, I guess. He's doing okay. And Alabama Mike is, doing fine in Oakland. He stayed healthy, which is a good thing. And of course, Larry Van Loan passed away in October, so Larry's not doing too well right now. But
right.
we miss him. We miss Larry a lot. He was a very important part of the band. And then Doug Swanson, our bass player, he moved back to California. I should probably turn my phone volume down. He moved back to California here a few months ago. He couldn't justify staying in Nashville, paying rent, but he could be at home living for free at his mom's house. So that's where he went.
Yeah.
But everybody's still available whenever we can get back to this. So that's a good thing.
Well, I'm hoping by summertime, man, things open up. At least some festivals will get going, some outdoor stuff be jumping off pretty soon, man. Because it's starting to suck real bad.
Yeah, I think possibly late summer. The only thing I have booked right now is the King Biscuit Blues Festival, and that's in Helena, Arkansas, about the first week of October. I figure there's a good chance that's going to happen, but until then, I just don't know. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, I definitely think the King Biscuit gonna happen because that town Helena, that's the only thing that town got going, and they need it.
Oh, absolutely.
They need
and
that
it is the
going.
only thing they got going.
It's the only. Well, in the casino.
It's so funny. Kathy and I've made a few trips back there. We know the people from the festival and all. We'll go meet somebody for lunch or go hang out for a little while. But you pull in that town when the festival's not there, and it's the most dead place you've ever seen. It's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
Nobody's there.
Nobody is nothing.
If the only time you go there is festival time, it looks, you think, oh, this place is hopping. No.
Festival time here.
No, it's not. I got kin folks down there, and I used to spend a few summers out there, and yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks. Well, the people is great, but the place is nothing to do.
No, that's exactly right.
Have you found other things to do, Andy? I mean, I know it's been, when outside, playing, it's going, like you mentioned, different states all over the country and the world. Have you found other things to keep you going?
Well, I have a few hobbies. One of them is I've got and I don't know if I showed you a picture of it or not, Dan, but I have a 2009 Mini Cooper S, turbocharged version that I decided to go ahead and like redo the suspension on and wheels and, basically racing tires. And I had the engine, I got a brand new engine for it, hopped up, went from about 175 horsepower up to about 260. And it's a little rocket. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I've had that project to work on here, during COVID times. And then I have, let me see what else. Oh yeah, I started bicycling again. I haven't bicycled for 30 years. I used to do it back in the 90s and 80s and 90s, and used to actually bicycle race for a while. It wasn't real competitive, but I enjoyed going out to the races and hanging with the guys and doing my best. Um, so I decided to go ahead and fix my old bicycles up. So all summer long, I started in about May, I guess, April or May. All summer long, I was bicycling. And then, of course, it got too cold to do that. So I ended up buying a smart trainer. So it hooks to a computer and you do these like virtual bike rides. And the trainer increases the resistance as you start to climb a hill. Or if you're going downhill, it lessens up the resistance. So it's pretty realistic. And it's actually a lot of fun. But sometimes you'll hop on, it'll be 35,000 people riding in this virtual world online. It's pretty amazing.
That sounds fun. I need to get one of those. I need to get in shape. Pandemic didn't put some
Yeah.
weight on me.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I'm kind of a skinny guy anyway, but I started gaining weight and I'm like, this, I can see how this is going to go.
Mhm.
How did you first get into the blues, Andy? I mean, like, I know you really enjoyed it. What really got you into the blues, growing up or later in life?
Well, I don't know. I mean, probably the first blues music that I ever heard, or something was close to the blues, was I guess Cream. I was watching, the band The Cream with Eric Clapton. I was watching, I guess, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour one night. I was about 12 years old, and they had Cream on there, and I saw that, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to play guitar. So I kept asking my dad for a guitar. One day he came home with one. He bought it from somebody at work, I guess, and I just started playing. And I just was always attracted to blues music, and I kind of went sort of like the blues rock way at first, and then I realized, hey, this, without Chuck Berry, there wouldn't be Johnny Winter, there wouldn't be all these different rock guys. And then I realized that, hey, BB King was really something. And I went out and bought first real blues album I bought was BB King Live at the Regal.
Okay.
And I was playing bass guitar at the time. I had switched to bass guitar, and that's how I learned to play the bass guitar, by listening to that it was actually a cassette tape. So I just listened to that over and over, and I figured it out pretty fast. But yeah, so I just kept going backwards, and then from BB King, I realized, hey, BB talks about T-Bone Walker, so I went back and got a T-Bone Walker album, and so that's kind of where it all started, electric blues, anyway.
Mm.
So I just kind of worked my way backwards, and then oh, okay, hey, Magic Sam's cool, and people like Lonnie Brooks, and the Chicago guys and all that, and so it just bounced around and listened to as many people as I could, and ended up with my own band out in the road playing music. So I guess it's done me good. But we all have to pay tribute to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and all that, because without those guys, none of us would be doing what we're doing.
Definitely, I agree with you.
Amazing music. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been in the Nashville area, Andy, as a living over there?
Well, I moved here in 2008, and that was about 2 years before they had that big flood. They had the flood here in Nashville, and there's a place called Soundcheck where everybody stores their instruments. They have studio rentals and rehearsal studios and all that, and businesses inside that building. It's a huge, like a warehouse, and it actually flooded. And I had one guitar in there, and I completely forgot about it. I was thinking, oh my, because I know people like some of the big musicians around here, like Vince Gill and all that, had the whole collections in that place, and they lost, I don't know how many. I think Vince Gill probably had 20, 30 guitars that were destroyed or nearly destroyed by that flood.
Mm.
And it was like 4 or 5 days before I realized, hey, I actually have a guitar in a shop over there. And luckily mine was not damaged. But when I walked in the shop, the guy says, hey, you're lucky. Your guitar was up on the top shelf. The ones that I need to work on, because it was finished, are on the ground and they're destroyed.
Oh,
So
man.
really something. But anyway, so I've been in Nashville since 2008. So what that's like 13 years, I guess, at this point.
Okay, that's a nice little, wow. You're originally from California?
Yeah, I was born in Santa Monica, Los Angeles area, and lived in Southern California. Last place we lived was San Diego before we moved to Nashville. And yeah, so I was born and raised there, and played in bands. I was in Smokey Wilson. Well, first I was Smokey Wilson's band. I don't know if you know who Smokey Wilson was, Dave. He hired me to join his band, and I remember I went over his house, and he says, okay. He says he had me play for a while. He had his band over there. He says, all right, you'll do now. I'm just hiring you for one show. That's it, one show, no more. So okay, fine. And he says, now I need to be able to call your name from the stage. So what's your name? So I said, well, I said, maybe you better call me Andy T or something. I figured he probably couldn't say my last name. And Smokey says, no, babe, it's okay. You tell me your name. I can say it. It's okay. My name's Talamantes. And he says, Andy T sound good. And so that was pretty much it. So I've been Andy T ever since. And then I went into Guitar Shorty's band, who's also located in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
I was with Shorty for a few years. So it was Smokey up until shortly before he had his stroke. Mm-hmm. And he kind of slowed down and really stopped touring right before his stroke. I think he wasn't feeling that great. And I actually had him in the studio, like, was it 9 days before he had his stroke? I called him in. I was doing my own record. I called him in and asked him to play some guitar and sing, on a few songs. So when we got him in the studio, he wouldn't stop. So he recorded like 10 songs.
Oh, wow.
I thought, wow, this is kind of odd, And at one point he wanted to go get a bottle, So we walked down to the liquor store, and he's kind of rubbing his head. He says, hey, babe, I had a bad headache for a couple of weeks. And I told him, I said, Smokey, you need to get to the doctor. That's not right. You might have a stroke or something, And he did. And he recovered from that stroke and just about came back. And then I think he had some more smaller ones, but Smokey passed away. Smokey passed away about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I guess. Mm. But from then I went to Shorty's band and traveled all over the world with Shorty, and that was a hoot. Shorty's a kick. I always had.
How was your time with Shorty?
It was cool. A lot of times I joke that, these guys taught me an awful lot on the road. It taught me a lot of good things to do and a lot of things not to do as well.
Right.
Smokey never wanted to pay for hotels. So if we had off nights, we'd be sleeping in rest stops. We'd be sleeping in truck stops. It didn't matter. He'd just pull over and we'd all try to, find an empty seat in the van and crash out. I remember one night my friend, Paul Slobod, bass player who was with him for a long time, he ended up sleeping on a park bench, like a picnic bench in a rest stop. And Smokey asked me, what's the matter with Paul? I said, I don't know, I think he just wants out of the van, but he spent the whole night just laying on a bench. Pretty funny stuff.
Okay. Miss Andy, tell me, how did you shape your guitar style?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I just listened to people, and I think I read early on when probably from a Guitar Player magazine or something. I read somebody said, don't try to play like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Try to be your own player. So don't listen to T-Bone Walker and play every, don't sit there and study T-Bone Walker to the point that that's all you can play.
Right.
And don't listen to Muddy Waters playing slide and play every note the same way. And I just kind of developed my own thing, I guess. But the frustrating part about that is if I go to record like a T-Bone Walker song and I want to try to do it like close to T-Bone, I really got to go back and study a little bit and
Right.
listen and listen and listen. And then I can kind of get into that mode and then I can do it. But staying away from it a little while, if someone said, play me some T-Bone, I could play a few T-Bone licks, but it wouldn't sound like T-Bone.
Right.
So but it's interesting how you can, how some people can sound so much like other people. I mean, there are guys like Duke Robillard who can play like, I don't know, he can play like Tiny Grimes, he could play like T-Bone, he can play like anybody, and he can sound very convincing and just like, I can't do that.
Right. Right. A lot of people that play like that, they don't have their own sound. So it's like, what do you have? Who are you? And they just can't bring nothing out of themselves. It's gonna always sound like T-Bone or Stevie Ray Vaughan or somebody. So I don't think that's a good
Yeah, I
thing.
remember one time. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they just sound like somebody else. Remember one time I was uh, playing at a Christmas show at in Long Beach, the college radio station there, and uh, I was waiting for Smokey to get there, and apparently some of the musicians were late. There was a lot of traffic that day or something, and it was a live broadcast. So they came out and said, Andy, come and play guitar. So they had me back up Lowell Folsom for a little while, which was,
Oh
he
wow.
was still alive back then. This is back probably in the late 90s. And Smokey was on his way in. He was listening to the radio show. And his wife told me when he got there, she goes, Smokey said he recognized your playing when you were on, when you were backing up Lowell and backing up a couple of other people. He goes, that's Andy. And Linda says, how do you know? And he says, I know, that's Andy. But that's kind of a compliment that he
Yeah.
could figure out it was me. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I'm done with that. Another
But that's a
question.
good thing though. Like I say, you stand out. You got your own thing going, man. That's to be commended and respected.
Yeah, and then my wife says, you always play the same thing. Well, it's, you listen to Albert King, he played a lot of the same thing. He
A lot.
packaged it a little differently with different songs, but that's fabulous,
Right.
the way it's,
Yeah. We were
or
just talking
Albert
about that
Collins.
the other day. Like he played a
Albert
lot of the
Collins had
same.
his own. Oh yeah, but I could listen to him for hours and hours and
Oh
hours
yeah,
and never get
definitely.
bored.
He's in my
Yeah,
normal
he was
rotation
great.
when I listen to music.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about being on when you played in on on tour with the bands, and just what did you enjoy most about going on tour and performing? And is there one thing you enjoy most and you think back and say, I'm really happy that in my career I was able to do this?
You mean like in general? Like what do I
Yeah, like in
enjoy most
general, like
about?
being playing in different venues, different cities, different musicians. What is there anything one thing you like, you really appreciate and say that you're really thankful for to be a part of that through your career?
Sure. Well, I mean, thinking about just being on the road. I mean, you've got a band of basically your friends, and you're out traveling. I think we have just as good a time like trying to find good food on the road, finding some decent restaurants. We all like Mexican food, so we end up eating a lot of that. But it's kind of a game we play, trying to find a cool place to eat when we have a chance. We try to do some interesting things, like we've even stopped at like Mount Rushmore went out of the way, stopped at Mount Rushmore, gone to the Grand Canyon. And I know some people when they go on the road, I mean, they're focused. I mean, they're going from point A to point B. They're not even wasting a gallon of gas going anywhere. And this is where we go. This is it. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's a lot of it's just the like I said, the camaraderie and seeing your friends on the road, people you've met before, or like you say, you play festivals frequently. Like when we go to somewhere like the King Biscuit Festival, I mean, that's family.
Yeah.
I mean, we know probably 60% of the people that attend the festival. And it's just great to hang out with those people. So, yeah, and it's fun. It's fun being on stage. That's a short time of it though. You know, you might spend an hour, or maybe in a club, you might spend 3 hours playing or something. Then you pack up and you drive another 12 hours to go to the next gig. So you got to enjoy every aspect of it, and not just be there just to play the music. And if you're trying to be there to, if you're going to say what I enjoy most is the money, that you need to be doing something else and playing the blues.
Definitely.
That's for sure.
Can't do it for the money.
It's different being a band leader. Well, it's different being a band leader too, because sometimes I'll come home and I'll write checks to the band guys, and they've made quite a bit of money. When I go back and figure it out, I'm like, well, I broke even. I didn't lose any money on this trip, but some you'll make money, some you don't. It's just getting out there. And there's always being able to sell your CDs and all that too, which can help out. But yeah, but like I said, it's mostly about being on the road with your friends and playing music for your friends and meeting new people out on the road. To me, that's what it's all about.
Does it depend on like the tours you go on, determine if you end up making money or you break even? Does it just depend on the venues you go to and places you go to? Is that determines that?
Well, at times you'll get a tour lined up. We have an agent, he'll line up our tour for us. And if there's a festival or two on it, that helps. If you go out and you do 3 or 4 festivals on a tour, and then you're filling in with club gigs, that's pretty cool. You can do all right like that. If you go out and you don't have a festival, I mean, chances are it's just, you're going out just to be out and sell CDs and do all that, which is important,
Right.
and getting in front of the fans. So we've done both. A lot of times we'll just go out for a festival or two, or just go do one festival, fly in or drive in for that. That's all right. That tends to be better.
Oh yeah. So how did you meet Alabama Mike, and how did you guys form the band?
Well, that's pretty interesting. So we had Nick Nixon in our band. Originally it was the Andy T. Nick Nixon band, and Nick actually had an aneurysm, and they did this fairly simple procedure to try to keep it from bursting. And I think in about maybe 10% of the cases, or less than that, it can end up in a stroke. And unfortunately, he ended up having a stroke. So we were looking for somebody to replace Nick. And we ended up doing, gosh, he had that procedure like 3 days before we were supposed to leave on the road. And they said, oh, he'll be fine. And we ended up having to use a few different people to fill in on that one tour. So when we got back, we started getting serious, made some phone calls. And I talked to, I believe it was Bob Cortor. Dan, you know Bob real well from the Rhythm Room in Phoenix. And Bob says, you need to contact Alabama Mike. And I talked to a couple of other people, and they said same thing. They said, there's this guy in California, Alabama Mike, and you need to call this guy. And I wasn't too sure. I'm like, well, I don't know. And then I looked online, and I looked at some of the stuff he'd done online and YouTube videos, and it's hard to tell. A lot of it's live in a club or whatever. And just wasn't sure. So I ended up going to Kim Wilson's wedding in California. Kathy and I flew in there. This is a few years back, probably in 2016, I think.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And I knew I had seen a couple of videos with Mike with Rick Estrin from Rick Estrin and the Nightcats. So I cornered Rick outside and I said, hey, Rick, come here. I want to talk to you for a minute. He said, yeah, Andy, what do you need? And I asked him about Alabama Mike. And he says, Andy, Alabama Mike is a star. He's a star. He's going on and on and on. He says, if you can get Alabama Mike in your band, man, you need to do that. He says, I've seen him. We were in front of 5,000 people at a festival, and he had every one of them singing his what's the name of that song that he does? something. I can't remember the name of the song right now, but he does this one song where it's like a call and answer kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I said, well, if Rick feels that strong about it, I'll give him a call. So I called him up and we talked about business and this and that, and kind of went back and forth for about a week, and we both decided it would be a good fit. So that's how that happened.
Okay. Yeah, Alabama Mike, he's a great guy. I love that dude. Real great guy.
He's a
And
kid.
a character.
He's so good on stage, and people just love him. We were recording in Austin here in I guess it was late 19, and we have an album ready to go, but haven't been able to put it out yet. And we went into a Seaboys club there, and Jimmy Vaughn was playing, and Jimmy Vaughn and Mike Flanagan, and we walked in, and Mike recognized us. We talked to him a little bit, and they were going to ask Mike up, and I didn't ask to get up and play guitar. I'm sure I could have, but that would have meant that Jimmy Vaughn would have come down off the stage. And I thought, no, Mike needs to get up there and play with Jimmy, so
Right.
he got up there, and Jimmy didn't know who he was, but really got a kick out of him. He was laughing at him and cracking up, and and I recorded. I stayed off stage and I recorded it and then put it up on Facebook at one point. But yeah, that was a great time. But yeah, and those people, man, Mike came off stage and they're all running up and hugging him and kissing him, and this guy's got something.
Oh yeah, he's something else. He got a stage presence out this world. I agree.
Yes, sir.
So what was it like to meet Jimmy Vaughn? I mean, I know I've talked to you off air about it. What was it like meeting Jimmy and getting that opportunity to meet somebody like him?
Jimmy's he's a great guy. I mean, he really is. He would come off stage and people come up to him. He hangs out with them and talks to them, and he knows a lot of the people in there in Austin, and he'll go after the gig. He goes to this little restaurant next door to Seaboys. He'll walk over there and he'll go sit and have something to eat before he drives home, because he lives like 45 minutes out or something like that. And he'll just hang out there. People be talking to him, and he's just a very personable guy, very friendly, nice guy, and I don't know what else I can say about him, but it's just he's somebody that I listened to early on as well. I think in the early 80s I bought a Fabulous T-Bird album and listened to that and really thought, wow, this is some cool guitar stuff that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it had Kim Wilson on there too.
Right.
And he's another guy that I just love to death. Kim Wilson's a great entertainer. He got a great personality, a lot of fun to be around. I've hung out with him a little bit more than I have with Jimmy. His wife Shannon, we knew her before she ever met Jimmy there in Phoenix, so.
Mm-hmm. So since this pandemic, I'm pretty sure you got a lot of new material coming out, right?
Well, I don't know. I probably haven't been focusing enough on writing. I've been thinking about a few things, thinking about possibility of just doing an all instrumental album for something different for the next album. I don't know. I've been thinking about that for a couple of years. Yeah, we have this album that's supposed to come out. I don't know. I was going to release it in September, this last September, but I don't know. I chickened out on it. I thought, if I can't go out and tour and sell copies, sell CDs, how am I going to make my money back? So it just didn't make sense.
Right.
And we held off on it.
Yeah, like I said, unfortunately,
probably should be writing. Need to think about.
I was just about to say that. I'm like, you probably should be writing. Because I know you got a lot of music in you, man, and especially with everything that's going on. I'm pretty sure you got a lot to say.
Yeah. I think if I get any ideas, I get out the recorder and open up the recorder on my phone, and I'll sing into that, or just kind of sing a guitar riff or something, or grab my guitar. And so I probably got a lot of ideas on my phone, but I just haven't looked at them lately. I don't know. We've been like I said, I've just been like occupying myself with other things, working on my motorcycle, working on my car, working on the bicycles, riding the bicycle. I don't know. Actually kind of getting spoiled by staying home in some
Yeah,
kind of odd way.
Yeah.
yeah,
I miss going out on the road, but we got a few dogs, and they seem to really enjoy the fact that I'm home, and it's I don't know, I haven't done it in so many years. I've we've
Yeah.
been pretty much out since about maybe 12 or something like that.
mm,
So what like 9 years, 8 years of solid touring.
no, pretty steady.
Not all the time, but yeah, it becomes a way of life. And then when you're not doing it anymore, I know, probably drove me a little bit more nuts than at first,
And you wasn't getting burned out?
being stuck at home. Well, sometimes, it's like you come home and you spend a couple of months, or you take a few months off for the holidays and over the first of the year or something. Usually by about March, you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably be in about the same place. March, April, I'll think, man, I really wish I had somewhere to go. I already got past that last year. So
Did it feel good to, like, when you even went to I know you went with your wife to Atlanta, but to even go, and I know you weren't performing there, but to even just go and change the scenery, was that helpful for you?
oh yeah, just to get out of town and go do something different. She has another trip coming up on Monday, I think. Oh, did we freeze?
No.
Oh, kind of froze for a second on my end. I guess you guys are all right. She has another trip coming up on Monday. She's going to fly out. She's trying to get me to go with her, but tickets are too expensive, so I opted out of that one. But yeah, it's nice, and I've done that with a few of her business trips. Like we went up to, she had to go to Indiana, up north of Indianapolis, and I took her during the summer, and we drove the van. I took my bicycle with me, did a little bicycle riding up there, but went to the Studebaker Car Museum in Indianapolis there. No, South Bend. That's right, the South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that was cool. That was fun. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to change the scenery. I know some people have not been out of their homes. I mean, literally, like, not been out of their homes.
Yeah, I know quite a few.
They order everything in, have food delivered. They don't even leave. They're afraid of, getting COVID, I guess. And as we've seen, as we know, that can be very severe for some people.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's hard to risk. A lot of people say, "Well, I just want to live my life." I'm like, "Yeah, but sometimes you got to just stay put for a little bit."
Yeah. So what
So
would you
you
think
can't
the
live.
well, you could.
what would you say the key for blues will be, Andy, coming up, and to just continue to keep this music going once we do return into some normal times? I mean, what do you think is the most important that to continue for blues to be relevant? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as touring bands, I think this is going to be kind of rough when we first get back, because there have been quite a few clubs that have closed up
Yeah,
and aren't there anymore. And just trying to connect the dots anyway, these past few years has been really tough, because a lot of the clubs have closed up and nobody seems to be opening, new clubs. So it just makes it difficult. I mean, if you're going to take off and do a couple of festivals, and you've got a week and a half or 2 weeks in between, you need to be able to hit some spots and not just hang out. All too often you end up, we've ended up in actually going to like an RV park. And when we had the bus, excuse me, when I used to drive the bus, I have a 53 GMC bus, and it's all set up, with the shore power and all that, and, you hook the water up and all that. And so we just go hang out for like a week sometimes, just waiting, doing nothing. So then nobody makes any money then.
right.
And you're just sitting, spending money on food. And so I think it's going to be critical for these clubs to stay healthy, and for someone to try to open up some new ones. And I hope that happens. I think the festivals will come back pretty well.
Yeah,
Most people that do festivals are pretty much able to just put them on hold. They don't have any money going out. They haven't had to spend anything, so they can just fire them back up. And I hope it remains like that.
I think a lot. The festivals is going to be the first to come back. I think pretty strong because you can still social distance and have a festival. I think a lot of clubs going to have to adapt as far as putting stages outside in the parking lot. That's what they're doing here in Chicago. In the summertime, it's winter now, but in the summer they was building stages in their parking lots and just doing outside shows only. So I think a lot of clubs are going to
Well,
have to
that's
adapt to that this summer if they want to stay
yeah,
afloat.
that's right. That's very interesting. Yeah, I've heard. I know they were doing that up in Kansas City. I have some friends up there that play all the time, and they were they set them up on the patio, and people were parking in the parking lot for a while there. They were just staying in their cars.
Yeah,
They had a
yeah.
big parking lot. They had people in their cars, and they'd pass around a tip bucket or something and pay the band. And
Hmm.
of course, some of those people that were playing those places ended up with COVID. So luckily, they're in okay shape. They didn't get too bad,
Right.
but it was dangerous. So I I I probably could have had some opportunities and been able to play at some time during the last year, but I just didn't feel like it was right. I just thought it was too
Yeah.
risky.
Yes,
Really
same
bad.
here. I got a few club gigs and I turned them down. I only like did a few outside things. Other than that, that was that. That was it. No inside stuff. So yeah,
Right. No,
I'm not gonna risk it, even though you're still
that's
risking outside
way
for a
too
look.
bad.
But definitely not no inside stuff. No club gigs at all. But hopefully, like I say, the summer I think it's
Yeah,
gonna
and
get a lot
and
better.
I'm optimistic. Right. I'm optimistic about the vaccines and all that. I know my wife Kathy, she's a healthcare worker, works in the health field, so she's already had her first shot, and she's going to get her second shot, I think, in another week or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't, they haven't dropped it down to my age level yet, so I can't get my shot. I'm still waiting, but I'll get it when I can because I figure that's only going to strengthen my hand for being able to get out and doing stuff if I'm not worried about getting sick.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And like I say, we'll
More people
know.
to get those shots.
I think we'll know by May or June on how effective this vaccination is.
Yeah,
We should know
Yeah.
by May or
Okay,
June.
cool. Yeah.
absolutely. Do you
Yeah. And if
gonna ask you, do you watch or play in like doing virtual performances, or do you, I mean, as a performer, or do you watch other people that do that?
yeah, I get online and watch other people do it. I'm not really a solo performer. I don't sing in our band, and when I do sing, my wife.
You would need other people to be able to do it
Yeah, well, and yeah, it'd have to be with other people, I guess.
live.
I mean, some people will do it by Zoom. You can't really do that live. I don't think. I've seen some people where they've got like a setup like this, where they've got three musicians playing, and they each have played through somehow through Zoom, playing to pre-recorded music or doing something. They
Yeah.
sync it all together. But I don't know. And Mike lives on the West Coast. Lives in Oakland, California. So he's 2,200 miles away. So it's not very convenient.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't have that many. That's I know quite a few people here in Nashville, but I don't know that many that are really doing that kind of thing. I don't know. I just don't see that many of them here
Yeah.
getting online, and some of our friends do.
I know you were very your wife's involved with the Blues Foundation. Talk about that. I mean, I know Kathy is involved with that. How that has worked for you, and how you got involved in that, and how Kathy got involved with the Blues Foundation.
Well, we first started going to Memphis to the Blues Music Awards. I don't know, probably about 2007 or something like that, and just have gone every year. We started meeting people through that, and then when I started up the band, we kind of got more involved. Played a couple of the award shows early on,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And they kind of recruited Kathy to be on the board.
Yeah.
And so she became a board member, and then you can only serve so long and you have to roll off. And then she's back on it now. And she also helps with a couple of the different committees that they have. She helps Janice with the Heart Fund. And the Heart Fund is the medical relief fund. help pay medical expenses and funeral expenses for people. So Kathy helps with that, and she helps with a couple of other things. I think that's kind of kept her busy through this whole COVID thing when her work hasn't been that busy. She's a consultant, so she kind of depends on people calling her up and having them come out to her facility. So there were several months when she wasn't getting any calls because nobody was allowing anybody into their facilities. So they just had everything on hold. But it's no, so it's been nice. And, it hasn't. I wouldn't say it's really afforded me any advantages. As I still get in line with everybody else for the Blues Music Awards if I have a new album, that kind of thing. But it's just nice to it's nice to know these people. It doesn't hurt to have friends.
Yeah,
And
Right.
absolutely. Have you been able to? I know that the Blues Foundation has a COVID-19 fund relief for musicians. Has that been something you've been able to be a part of? I know myself, I've done some donations throughout this pandemic. Has that been something you've been able to receive assistance from, or any of your band members that have been able to been helped by that?
uh, band members, yes. I have not tapped into that. We're not in a position where I have to worry about all that. I'm not going to say we're filthy rich or anything, but we've been kind of skating by. So we tend to try to contribute to those things rather than draw from them. But like my band member that passed away, Larry Van Loan, he received help from the COVID relief fund and from the Heart Fund for quite a long time. And but Larry was one of those guys that he'd be the first one if I said, "Hey, Larry, we have to go play a benefit," and we tend to do that a lot. Play those Heart Fund and benefits and all that. Larry'd be the first one to say, "Let's go," let's go do this. And that was his way of paying back. And we just did the as far as benefits and things like that. We just did the virtual benefit. I think you saw that, didn't you, Dan?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
For the Heart Fund. And Heart Fund and the COVID funds are very closely related anyway. That was kind of interesting because they did a virtual deal, and I contributed a little bit to that. And it was a lot of fun. And actually, I think they raised somewhere around $8,000.
Yeah.
Off that.
That's good. And
Going live and taking donations.
Do you foresee that the Blues Awards in June this year will probably be virtual again, more than likely?
Yes, I don't know for a fact, but I don't think that they are planning on having a live show.
Yeah.
Anything could change, but I just think the plans, they would already have to be in gear doing it, and I don't think they are.
Yeah.
So it's going to be another virtual thing.
Sure. Absolutely. What would you say for some young I know some musicians that have tried playing blues and stuff. What would you say the biggest thing is to keep musicians that are talented to blues and not go crossing into some other genres? I know there's every musician has a different objective, but what would you say in keeping so we have our next generation of musicians that are staying with blues and as opposed to maybe going into some genres? What do you think that needs to happen for that? So that musicians say, I want to stay with blues and not cross over to maybe something else.
Right. It's difficult. It's difficult not to be influenced by other music that you hear. Who was it? Was it Willie Dixon that wouldn't let any of his children listen to any other music besides his in the house because he didn't want to be influenced? I've heard that story from a couple of his children. But yeah, so that's kind of difficult. But I think the main thing is to just, I don't want to say narrow what you listen to, but there's so much good real blues to listen to. Yeah. And I know I went through a period where I had a job, regular job, where years ago, where working in aerospace, and I had a long drive, like an hour and a half drive, like to work, and could be up to 2 hours to drive home. Well, I was going in on Friday nights or Saturdays and buying like box sets. So I've got Howlin' Wolf box sets. I've got Muddy Waters box sets. I was grabbing everything you could think of and listening to all that, Slim Harpo collections and just like diving in and just listening and listening and listening. And you pick up so much from doing that. Then again, a lot of kids will listen to a bunch of different styles of music and kind of turn it into their own thing. So it's hard to tell somebody
Would you
don't
say it's
try to.
probably like just because the amount of options are out there of other genres that it makes it a little bit harder for people to say, or musicians to say, I want to be staying with the blues rather than going into rock and roll or pop or R&B or something else. I mean, because the amount
Yeah,
of exposure on the radio or just in popular
right.
society that's out there that it's hard to limit it just to the blues like it to be.
Well, if you think back, if you take the blues back, like what were people doing 100 years ago? 100 years ago, nobody had electric guitars, and it was people playing parties on an acoustic guitar, singing their songs and playing, Big Bill Brunsey and that people with that kind of style. And then that kind of evolved into when electric guitars came along, evolved into like T-Bone, some of the Uptown stuff. And then you had people like Muddy Waters and all that picking up guitars and starting to do their own thing plugged in. And it's always been a progression, you know. But a lot of the music that you hear today, like I'll put on got Sirius XM in my wife's car. I listen to the blues station, and I don't know. A lot of it's just like if you took in some kind of crazy music out of the '70s, some crazy wild rock and roll, and repackaged it. That's what they're playing on there. So to me, that's kind of frustrating. I can't listen to it for very long. I
How
usually
would
end
you,
up shutting it off.
since you said the blues station, can you really listen to the station? Because they only really play like 3 or 4 people on there.
I there's sometimes when they'll play like classic blues and that,
Yeah,
and that's cool.
sometimes.
But they start playing some of this like what was it, Blackberry Smoke? I don't even know what the stuff. It's like what it's like. Well, I have kind of an opinion about that, but
let's
it's
let's
like
hear, let's hear your opinion.
all right. Let's see. I'm a aging rocker from the 70s and 80s. I don't have anywhere I can play anymore because no one's hiring me. So let's put out a blues album, and it's not going to sound like blues. It's going to sound like the same rock and roll I did 30, 40 years ago. And then we can get, gigs at blues festivals. Now, I hate to sound weird or bitter like that, but a lot of the music that I hear and a lot of the bands, I think, are just.
I think it sounds more rock and roll than it is blues. I mean, I mean, you probably know this too. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad music, but like we've talked about this with other musicians, it needs to be very classified as rock, and blues has. I mean, to me, it's like there's a difference. I mean, I know people may say there is some ties with blues and rock, but yes, there is. But there is also differences where you listen to some of it and you're like, well, this is good music, but it probably belongs on a rock and roll station or at rock concerts, and it's not necessarily blues. Is that basically musicians doing that just to try to get, maybe they're playing at blues festivals, playing more rock and roll to be able to still get to play somewhere? And is that just something that's just kind of the way the industry is with that?
I mean, I can't speak officially for anybody, but that's what it sounds like to me. A lot of bands are just putting out a blues album because they're like, at their wits' end, they can't figure out how to get a gig or how to get, they can't do the stadium concerts they used to do years ago. So they figure, well, we could put out an album and call it blues and, get some attention that way. And that's, and that's all right. And some people like that. So
Yeah, some people like it, but like I say, like you said, it's not blues, and it kind of
No.
hurt me
Yeah.
because a lot of these old cats, they got strong record companies behind them, so they can get pushed to the radio. Well, XM blues stations, and it's not really blues; it's more rock or rockabilly, if you will, than
Right.
blues. So
Right.
well, when Bill Wax was involved, when he was running the channel, running the station there, it was great. I mean, he was doing a good job of playing good music. He was going through the music, and if something wasn't good, he wouldn't play it. He didn't play it just because someone gave it to him or just because he knew somebody or something like that. And that's kind of sounds like what's going on now. And I don't want to say anything, it's for some people, maybe Sirius XM's like the only kind of revenue stream you can come up with anymore, because I think they pay better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make anybody angry either, where if I send another album in there, they're going to say, hey, that Andy said something nasty in a podcast, I'm not going to anymore. So you kind of got to be a little bit careful. But some of the music I think is not probably of the quality that it should be being played on there.
What can you do?
It's their station though. I mean, I pay for it because I've got a subscription,
Right.
but I don't run it.
Yeah. And really, I only got XM Sirius Radio just for the blues station and the oldie station.
Yeah.
The soul station. Other than that, I don't listen to nothing else too much. Maybe a little jazz in there.
Do you think it's, it's obviously we're in this pandemic and it's, it's hard times, but and I look at blues and you look at the amount of talented musicians there are and how really good the music is. And, I look at the, all the genres of music and, what other, maybe other genres or what they're bringing as far as revenue. Can the blues have that opportunity to, maybe where you like to talk about artists that are, doing really well as far as with revenue? I mean, I know obviously it's really hard right now with this pandemic and no one knows where the future is, but can that be something that is possible? I mean, we've obviously other genres have done it, and I feel, and I say this to myself every day, the blues has that opportunity. I know it may be difficult. Is that something, Andy, that you think that with the right, fans and the right, going in the right direction, it eventually can happen that way one day? Or are we looking at, we're at this point and we need to accept that? What is your thoughts on that? It's something that it crosses my mind all the time. And I know that, like I said, it's not an easy thing to happen, but can it?
You mean as far as like having some kind of a revenue stream during
Yeah,
times?
or like, we're an example of, like, for example, you see pop musicians that do really well or rock and roll artists that have done really well. Can the blues get to a point where, maybe it's not at the level of, maybe the Rolling Stones or some of these other bands that have made it real big, or these pop artists, but to where, it's, closer to where that level of, that gap is not the same, where, blues can get recognized and be paid well for being really good musicians the same way these other genres have gotten their opportunities. And so that's, what I'm asking you.
Well, one could only wish, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's like it almost seems that the blues market's become smaller rather than larger.
So before any venues would even think that, does it really start with the fans, where, a huge amount more fans maybe could somewhere be a light at the tunnel for that? I mean, is, when it looks at like venues considering that, or record label, is it basically starts with the fans that can more support, which leads to that? Is it really all start from that and then you kind of take it from there?
Well, I mean, taking it as just a large overall question here, it really starts with fans.
Right.
And, I people talk about like blues in the schools programs and all that, I think that's great. I participated in some of that in the past too. People have to be exposed to it to want to listen to it.
Right.
And if they don't hear it, if they don't hear it, they don't know they like it. Now, a good example is if a lot of commercials will use blues music in the commercials.
Right.
All right. That's great. And we recognize that. But you'll ask a lot of people, do you like blues music? And they'll say, no, I don't like the blues. It's sad or whatever. They don't even know what it is. And yet they're listening to, you're pointing out on a commercial. I've done this to somebody. You like that song? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, that's a blues song. It is. I mean, I don't even know. So without exposing people to it, you're not going to grow the audience. And if you don't grow the audience, you're not going to be able to make more money.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes somebody like like when Stevie Ray Vaughan came, along in the in the 80s. He wasn't playing straight blues. I mean, he could play great blues if he wanted to. He wasn't playing great straight blues, but what he did was he turned people on to the blues, and he never claimed this is my music, I made it up. He said, no, I got this from Albert Collins, I got this from Albert King. You got to listen to these guys. You got to, check these guys out. And that's happened a lot. That happened in the 60s. Yeah. In the 60s, the blues was kind of dying down, and then you had bands like, like Cream and the Rolling Stones, and artists were talking about, hey, you got to check these guys out. I mean, the Rolling Stones went and recorded an album at Chess. I mean, they were, they considered themselves a blues band back then.
Right.
And
you think that we might need somebody like that? I mean, you mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan, with someone maybe today that's like Stevie Ray Vaughan that could do the same thing, or is it basically at that era it worked, and doing that now maybe a little bit? I mean, can that happen? Do you think?
That's a tough question, Dan. You don't ask easy questions.
Yeah, that's you know what? It's just like, if you think about blues, it'd never be a commercial music ever. Sure. If you even look at the history, there's only a handful of people that was making big money.
Right.
And through each generation of blues, there's only a handful of people that makes money. Now you can make some consistent money, and it's like you said earlier, Andy. If you get into the blues, don't get into it for the money.
Right.
Don't do it for the money. You got to get into it for the love of it. You can make some money and hope to make a living at it. But if you're thinking about fame and fortune, it's the wrong type of music to get into. And I think that's one thing that why a lot of people go to pop and rock and all of that. But still, you come back to the blues because it's going to always be consistent. You may not get rich, but you can make some consistent money.
And the personability of the blues, of like you meet your fans, and maybe you have lifetime fans as a musician with the blues.
Yeah, and blues musicians, like I say, just like you go to an Andy T show and an Alabama Mike show, they're approachable. Right. After a set, you can go down and talk to them. They'll sign your CDs and take pictures, and can I buy you a cup of coffee or whatever? And it's cool. They're approachable. A lot of rock stars and pop stars, they'll look past you and keep walking.
Yeah.
So it's just either that, or you never see them at all. They just hide out in the dressing room.
Exactly. Yeah.
Door,
Yeah, definitely. You wait for them to come off the bandstands. They out.
That's one thing I think that's one thing I think that attracted me to blues a lot too, because I would go to shows when I was younger, and you could just walk up to the entertainers at any time and talk to them and ask them questions, and everybody was friendly. That's never great. Met anybody that was really like a jerk or and get away from me kid or anything like that. Even up to like BB King, the few times that I met him, it's just a great personality, just warm, and shake her hand and really mean it, and every fan was important to him. That's what it needs to be. So in some aspects, maybe the blues being kind of a niche thing where it's not so huge, keeps it friendly.
Right. I guess you look at it in the sense, if it was huger, if it was bigger, then as it gets bigger, then maybe it's harder to maybe to do that still. But I guess with the niche is because everybody, like you've talked about, everybody's like a community friends. That's what makes it special in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think about the times we've done we've done a blues cruise. We've been on some of Delmer and Clinton's cruises, not as a band, but just like hanging out and sitting in and being with friends. But the times that you can get all your musician friends together, that's what's really cool. Like doing festivals, this, Dave. You'll see people that you see maybe every year, like when we do the King Biscuit. They have a lot of the same bands. They have sometimes they rotate some of the bands, but it's that's as much fun as anything. Just hanging out with your musician friends.
So great thing about blues is that
you're always on the road traveling. You never get a chance to visit with these people.
Right.
Yeah, you could always. Do you find it like also with the blues are able to you play with musicians, and I think we've talked about this with some other blues musicians that you you don't necessarily have to know the whole song, but just everybody can come on stage and join somebody where everybody's willing to, work with one another and also being part of the blues family.
Oh yeah, I remember Anson Funderburg had Kim Wilson sing for him one year. Come on and do the show with him at the King Biscuit. And Anson asked me to come up, and I was up there for 3 or 4 or 5 songs, I guess. And I didn't know any of the songs, but I knew them all because they were playing a bunch of songs, either that were old T-Bird songs, or they were songs that Anson Funderburg had recorded. And it was a blast. I just jumped up there. I didn't, there were breaks coming up and all this, and I'm like, Anson's like, breaks coming up. I said, I know, I got it. I know what's happening. Yeah, so it's, some of it is blues you play by instinct, and if you've heard something before, a lot of times you can just kind of go along through it, fake it, and do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So would you say that from your experience, just playing with different musicians, has it, you've learned different, things from each musician that have still stick with you, whether it's a guitar player or harmonica player, or just learn something that sticks with you? Because I know you play with many musicians. Is it something that still sticks with you?
No, absolutely. You can't help being on stage with somebody like a Smokey Wilson or a Guitar Shorty and not pick up something from them. Smokey, it was very interesting. When I first got the call from Smokey, I called a friend of mine from Southern California, great guitarist, great singer. John Marks is his name. I called up John because I knew he'd known Smokey for a long time. And I said, John, Smokey wants me to join his band. That's after I'd already done the one gig with Smokey. And then he says, okay, but you do fine. You want to go out and tour? And before I answered him, I talked to John, and John says, Andy, he says, I can play rings around Smokey on the guitar, technically. He says, but Smokey's got something that I'll never have. And you can learn a lot more from Smokey than you can learn from me. So I ended up taking the gig, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you learn how to handle yourself on stage. You learn what to do on stage, what not to do off stage. And
you say doing cover songs, is cover songs something that, when you have to learn a cover song that maybe has been done by another musician, does it take some time to learn it, or you try to like, when you've done it, try to make it to as close as it resembles to the original musician, or how does that work with the cover songs?
Well, let's say you're on stage with somebody and I say, look, let's do this, an old Jimmy Reed tune, or I don't know, pick one, they're all kind of the same. But yeah, I mean, you want to play it so it resembles the original song, but you don't. I wouldn't play it exactly note for note like anybody, because I just don't do that.
But you try to keep it as close as it sounds to the original.
Yeah, so that somebody in the audience can hey, I know that song, because people always want to hear something that sounds familiar too.
Do you like doing tributes to musicians, or is that something? I mean, as a musician yourself, doing tribute songs to musicians, is that something you like to do?
We've done that on some of our albums, where we'll do a T-Bone Walker song that's cool, and really try to keep it like in that style, like as a tribute to T-Bone or something like that.
I got a question for you, Andy. Who is your Mount Rushmore of the blues?
Mount Rushmore of the blues?
Mm-hmm.
You mean if I had to pick some faces to put up there instead of who's there?
Yeah.
Well, they have 4. Well, okay. I think you'd have to have T-Bone Walker.
Yeah.
Just because of his position. Okay. Muddy Waters.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Wolf.
Okay.
And then it gets a little more difficult, because you're starting to try to figure out, really Muddy and Wolf were like the premier Chicago guys, and they like, they made everything happen, let me see who would be the 4th guy. There had to be 4, not just 3.
Yeah.
Who would be the 4th guy?
I
don't know. I mean, I kind of tend to gravitate towards I'm a big Magic Sam fan. So, I mean, but you could put Magic Sam up there. You could put about, some of the, but those are next generation guys. Those weren't really like the first generation guys. You
Mhm.
could put a Buddy Guy up there or something, and
Yeah.
I don't know, but you'd have to consider the fourth position to be harder to fill, I
So,
think.
right. Is there one musician that in blues that you haven't played with yet that when we get back to hopefully almost one that you haven't played with yet, but you would like to play with if you had the opportunity to? Is there any musicians that's on your list to play with?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's like probably 20 guys that I wouldn't mind stage with. As far as current people running around right now, I don't know. I'd probably say Ronnie Earl, but I've already been on stage with that guy. He's really something as far as the guitar goes. Gosh, I don't know. You're kind of getting me drawing a blank here, Dan.
Yes.
Who would I like to be on stage with? I mean, there's so many on my list that I could already check off.
Yeah.
I haven't already been on stage with them. Who would be cool? I don't know. Hey, maybe Yanni. How about that?
Of course, me, yeah.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, no, man, seriously. I'd like to do that,
It's gonna
Just
happen.
hanging out with you sometime.
It's gonna happen.
All right,
And
cool.
we're gonna do it at the Rhythm Room. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or maybe if we ever get a gig up in Chicago again,
Definitely.
have you on as a special guest. I was thinking of something else too, and it's something that I've talked to other people about, and it's this whole COVID thing, and really nobody doing any serious gigs and no tours and all that for a whole year already, and it's going to continue for a little bit more. It's really been kind of like the great equalizer. It's like no matter what your status was, was before the COVID times, right now it doesn't mean diddly. It doesn't mean a doggone.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Because we're all in the same spot.
Yeah.
Whether you're a Yanni or you're an Andy or you're a anybody else that was out there touring and will be back.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. Everybody's making zero. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Yeah, I'm praying for the day.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
No.
But I think when it all
It's not
goes back, it'll feel like opening gifts on Christmas morning. It's like when you
Man.
look, that's why when it does, it's like opening gifts on Christmas morning.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. And I already know this, because I've seen the reaction is like some shows that have happened around here in Nashville. Like we went out, we don't go out much, but we went out to one of the venues here that does a real good job of social distancing. And there was a benefit for a friend of ours, somebody that we know. And we went out there, and it's just like everybody was just so happy to be out.
Yeah.
To be out doing something, doing anything.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as music opens back up, you're going to see these festivals just packed.
Yeah.
And you're going to see the clubs packed, at least for a while, until people get used to it being back. But so I think that's going to help a lot. I think just the reaction to being able to go out and see live music again, people are going to appreciate it a lot more than they did before.
Because listening to the blues, I mean, even whether it's your music or other musicians, does that help you through this pandemic? I know for me, through the last 12 months, it has. I mean, being able to listen to blues and helping me out. Has that for you, Andy?
Oh yeah, I'll call stuff up on Spotify, or I've got a it's small. I used to have much larger. I don't know what. I think I lost them all. LPs, just regular records. And I've got a turntable, and I'll throw some BB King or something on the turntable and listen to that. And it's nothing better. And it definitely is a mood enhancer. Helps a lot. If you're down,
Definitely does. And do you like to go back to listen to some of your own albums too? Or?
Actually, I listened to one of them. I listened to Numbers Man the other day, and Anson Funderburg has produced all of our albums, and he says that might be the best one. And I listened to it, and I tend to agree, but it's not something you think about a lot, and it's especially if you haven't listened to your own music in quite a while. You put it on, it's like, wow, that's
So you can listen to your own music.
I can.
I know a lot of artists that pretty much they record, make records, but they can't listen to
it. And I can understand that. Usually what happens when I record something and you listen to it so much, when you're, in the mixing process, you're in the overdubbing process, you're sending it out to get it mastered, you're checking that, you listen to the thing over and over and over, and you get sick of it. I mean, you just don't want to hear it again. But you just lay off for a while, take maybe 3 months or 6 months, put it on, and then it's like, it's kind of fresh again. So yeah, I can listen to it. Of course, then I'm not the vocalist in the band, so maybe it'd be different if I was singing and I didn't like to hear my voice on record. And I know the times that I have recorded my own voice and stuff, I listen to it, I think that didn't even sound like me. It's you tend to kind of not want to even hear it. So, but I do know some people that just won't listen to their own stuff. It's like,
I know quite a few. Yeah, I understand. One more question for you.
Sure.
If it wasn't for blues and your guitar, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? I'd probably be doing what I did before I started really getting serious about the music. I worked in aerospace for 25 years, doing manufacturing engineering kind of stuff in Southern California. And if I was still able to do that, it was probably what I would have continued doing all the way through. It's at some point I had some kind of, let's say, frustrating jobs where the people, it's like you're there 10, 11 hours a day, and then they call you in the office, they say you're not staying here enough, you're not putting enough hours and stuff like that. I remember one day I called my wife up. I was probably just knocked over my microphone. It's probably just about in tears from having one of those interactions with the boss, and Kathy says, why don't you just quit? And I said, yeah. She says, yeah, just quit. That's the last time I worked a regular job. This back sometime in the 90s. But that's probably what I would have been doing. I don't know. It's like, but I wanted to play the guitar ever since I was probably 5 years old, 6 years old. I can remember. I used to beg my grandparents. They'd go to visit relatives in Texas, and they would go to Mexico, go shopping or whatever. And I used to beg them to bring me a guitar. So they bring me some little Mexican-made guitar with 4 strings on it. But that's all I wanted. Just bring me a guitar. Bring me a guitar. I remember seeing people on TV playing, probably like maybe Scotty Moore playing with Elvis or something back then, as a kid, and just being, enthralled by the guitar, and just that's what I always wanted to do.
Well, you're doing it now, my friend. Hopefully, we get back to it soon.
I mean, I might have said, I'd been a ballet dancer or something too.
No,
I can't dance. I can't dance.
Well, we'd like to thank you for your time, Mr. Andy.
Thank you so much for coming on, Andy.
Hey, how can people get a hold of you? You got social media or a website where they can buy CDs and T-shirts?
Oh, well, if somebody wanted to contact me, I'd be glad to sell a CD and T-shirts. I don't know if we have any more. They're probably stashed away somewhere if I can even find them. Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. Andy Talamantes is what it is. But if you look for Andy T, I think it might come up too, because it's like Andy T in parentheses or something, the way I've got it in there. Also have a band page, the Andy T Band. And then, we've got a website, andytband.com. And I got email links in there if you want to email me and whatever, I'm around here. Somebody wants to call.
All right. Can't wait to see you
Ask
back
me
on
for my
stage.
phone number.
Right. No phone numbers.
Yeah.
No phone numbers.
Yeah, right.
Can't wait to see you back on stage again.
No, I'm not going to give a phone number. Oh, well, Me too. And same with you there, Yanni.
All right.
And
Definitely.
I can't wait till I can see Dan back at the at the rhythm room,
Oh yeah.
over there by the mixing board where I usually find him
Yeah.
hanging out.
Yeah.
It'll be back soon. Hopefully, like I spoke to Bob the other day, and he's like, you know, he's up in the air about doing his 30th anniversary over there in September. So we crossing our fingers for
Right.
that. So hopefully that can happen, and we'll go from there. But thank you, Mr. Eddie T, for being on our show. I'm Dave Yanni Riley,
I'm Dan Ligori.
and this is Blues Fanatic.